So everybody like hates working with millennials, and I work with a bunch of them. But even myself, I had to adapt the way that I teach them and coach them on how to train.
Sure.
So basically,
say that again.
Yeah,
say that like one more time for people listening.
That I work with millennials, a bunch of millennials, and they're great people to work with. I mean, honestly, but I had to learn a way to be able to teach them and show them their value of what they do. Before, and I'm going to include myself in this, they used to tell me, this is your job. They didn't ask questions. I just did my job and never complained. Now they have to have a reason behind why they're doing their job. Right. So myself as a business owner or a manager or HR director, I had to adapt to the way that I ask questions and the way that I train. Right. So even as like, hey, can you help me do this? They're like, why? Well, if you do this, it's going to produce this result. And if you do this result, it's going to help us make our week. And if we make our week, then I have more hours to give you for you to work. Oh, so now it's a consequence of their action and the result.
And I think, too, the other thing that's unique and positive about millennials and that up and coming workforce is that not only do they want to understand why they're doing something, right? Like you mentioned, as far as they want to know why. They also want to be part of kind of the decision-making process. And a lot of that, I think, stems from a lot of these folks grew up, with their parents kind of taking them to baseball games and taking them to ballet practice and things of that nature. And every discussion that they had with their parents was more like where would you like to have dinner today? Or what would you like? It was collective. And so these folks are really used to having that conversation and being part of the decision. As where I think a lot of business owners, especially business owners that have been around for 20 years, don't have that mindset. They still have the mindset of, no, I'm going to tell you what to do.
Micromanaging.
Well, it's because I said so.
Yeah, it's because I
said so.
The
answer is because I said so. The answer to why is always because I said so. I mean, I actually think, so I'm technically not a millennial, but I actually think millennials kind of get a bummed rap.
Yeah.
And here's why. I actually think they're really smart. I think they figured something
out. Oh, absolutely.
They figured something out that like my generation didn't figure out, which was, okay, look, I understand. And I think a lot of it is because we have just better and more access to information. But they're like, I understand the systems at play here, out in the world, out in the workplace, out in the business world, right? So they're like, so if you want me to be engaged, you got to give me my why. Like I gotta feel connected to what Vib'n is doing, or else it's just a job. And I'll be honest, I can get just a job anywhere, and just a job isn't gonna make me rich. Yeah. So if you really want to engage me, because I think they look back and they're like, they look at the generation like me that just came directly before them, not too far removed from them, and they're like, you're that guy who was the hamster on the wheel. I'm not going out like that. I want to be engaged. It doesn't matter what my job is. It doesn't matter if it's at the lowest level. Like, I want to be engaged. Yeah. Like, it's just more than just punching a clock.
Absolutely.
I don't necessarily, they're not all about the dollars. I think their lifestyles are much more minimalized, but I think they're much more engaged mentally in that. Give me the why, right?
Well, to kind of add on to what you're saying, so, obviously the dollars is just a result of whatever. That's right. And they don't care about service or the product. It's all about tying back to the soul of the business, which is the mission, the vision, the values, the emotion. So they want to believe in something. And before back in, let's go 80s, 70s, marketing was like, I'm going to tell you what you're going to like, and that's why you're going to like it.
Right.
Now you see all new brands, how they've shifted their focus to this more purposeful, like, business. It's all about having business with purpose. And
social
if it doesn't,
causes,
and not even, but being able to storytell like where you came from, and being able to storytell, the process about people want to see the behind the scenes. They want to see what's going on, how you make your product, how you do your service, and that's why they're tied emotionally to businesses, and that's where businesses are really succeeding nowadays.
Yeah, I think that Sal brought a huge point. They just want their voice to be heard. Yeah, It might take a couple of times for you to speak out, but somebody will listen. And if you acknowledge that they're speaking out to you, and you apply one of their ideas, as minimal it can be, you have them forever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right about that. I think if you can get them engaged, let them know that they're part of the process, reward them, obviously, for, their contributions. I think it's a win-win all the way around, because you have as Anthony mentioned, you have a very talented workforce that understands Google and the internet and all of those things.
Correct.
So
they're just more cognizant of things that
Right.
we were just not able to be
Right.
cognizant of because they weren't out there in
didn't
like
grow up with
everybody's
it.
Sure.
stream
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
consciousness.
they didn't.
Yeah.
I grew up playing with rocks. They play with iPads.
Well,
Yeah,
I
exactly,
tell
right.
millennials all the time, right? And it's just like I watch their heads explode, and I'm like, hey, when I was in college, I'm like, check this out. When I was in college, there was no Google. They're like, what?
Yeah.
So if you have to do a paper, I'm like, yeah, you have to go to the library and pull one of the cards out and get a book.